to put together something that is worthy of the bad guy. You ready for this?
Yes.
Chael, the epitome of male, the opposite of frail. The holy grail of holy hell, is he handsome? The reflection of perfection, the man who gets your attention. He's the man with the biggest arm and the greatest charm. Leroy, I got a question for you. What are you going to do when you know who? How are you going to deal with the man of steel? How are you going to react to Sonnen's attack? Ladies and gentlemen, the bad guy.
At long last, I heard you needed a good-looking badass, and one has arrived.
It definitely got prettier on this show, Chael. Thanks for giving us some time. We were just asking, like, Ankalaev, you think he's got a shot this weekend, Chael? Pereira feels like he's steamrolling everybody right now.
I do, and I got to back up to that green. I was there for the whole thing. I don't know why you couldn't hear me, but that was beautiful, and I appreciate the quotes. Now, I got some inside scoop, guys. I'm out here in Vegas doing the Ultimate Fighter. So every day I go to something known as the PI, the Performance Institute. Twice this week, Pierre was in there and he was training. And we've heard stories that he's not focused. We've heard stories that he doesn't have his team around him. We've heard stories that he's 30 pounds overweight. I can just tell you from watching him train, none of those things are true. He is the only athlete on this card that sparred 5 full rounds. He did that twice this week, and that was just that I saw. That was pure coincidence, and I just happened to see a total of 10 rounds. This guy is fit. He's in shape. He's a mean son of a bitch. I've got to tell you, I don't always see it when the guy's in the octagon. A guy has more skills in his repertoire, and he shows that more in practice. This guy is nasty. He is not as advertised. This is not just a stand-up fighter. This is a fighter that prefers to stand up. I can tell you he was very good on the ground.
Chael, that's my question. Like, one of the things I love about the UFC is that you have so many different styles, so many different perfections that these guys have. And when they all come together, do you prefer one style over the other, or it's the fighter that is able to expand his game to just not one type of fighting? I think that's the most amazing thing to UFC to me, is that so many different kind of styles of fighters can come in and fight one another.
And see, I see it the same way as you. I find that fascinating. Like, I started as a fan in 1993. Nobody knew anybody. We didn't have weight class championships. There was no money. There was barely TV, but there was the same pursuit, which is to find out of all of the different arts and styles, which one is the most effective. Like, what would happen if a judo guy took on a taekwondo guy? And quite frankly, here we are 30 years later. We still don't have a perfect answer to that question. Right when you think you know everything, a guy like Pierre comes along. Like, this sport has been proven to be dominated by grapplers, and then somebody like Pierre comes along. He was 36 years old when he started this. He became the world champion at 37. He's a double world champion. I'm not sure by 38 he's not going to have a third world championship.
Do you think, Chael, like, you were such a master at getting people's heads, what would you have done to get into his head? Because he feels like he doesn't say anything. You see him on fight week and he goes into action, but there's no reaction to him whatsoever except when he does that damn walkout with the bow and arrow.
Yeah, and he's so tall. Like, I mean, I just say this from a wrestling perspective. The guys that you can really go out and exploit are the taller guys. Kickboxing, that can be effective to have some height too, but the wrestling, it's bad. He's got all these legs. All you got to do is change elevation and go blast him, or at least that's what it looks like. Nobody succeeded in doing that. In fact, guys, to go a step further, I never seen anybody try. It's not just guys are failing to out-wrestle him. There's nobody that's tried. There's something about his stance. There's something about his movement that shuts wrestlers down. And even when I was watching him in person, I was trying to figure out what that was. I don't quite have it. This guy's got some tricks, and this guy, he's very good. And by the way, when we have always seen wrestlers dominating strikers, there's another element to that, which is the wrestler has always been in better shape. He's the one that could push harder in the fourth and fifth round. Mm-hmm. That's not the case with Pierre. Pierre's got the condition advantage. Pierre has never lost a fourth or fifth round. And Pierre has lost an entire fight before and then knocked the guy out in the fifth round. Like, he does better as the finish line gets closer. And that is a meaningful difference. We've never really seen grappler versus striker where the striker was the better condition. And that's one of the things I'm really looking for when he takes on Ankalaev this weekend. I think it's going to be the deciding factor.
Talking to Chael Sonnen, you guys could see him this week on ESPN's coverage, ESPN Plus pay-per-view. Alex Pereira against Magomed Ankalaev, UFC 313 available for you guys. We got it coming down here soon, Chael. Miami's the next card up, and we were speaking with Paddy the Batty this past week with this fight coming with Michael Chandler. Do you feel like for Paddy the Batty, is this too much of a step up for him, or do you think he's ready for Michael Chandler?
He is ready for Michael Chandler. 1 year ago, I would have laughed about this. I would have dismissed it, and the company never even would have signed it. But it's a very different world. And we've also got a pretty false reception of Paddy. Like, he comes across as this young kid, and, you know, maybe he's a regional draw, and he can help to move the needle a little bit in England. It's not like that. This guy is truly a star in MMA. I've been in rooms when he walks in, and then 5 other famous guys walk in. They give the biggest reception to Paddy. And this whole idea that he's a young kid, I mean, this young kid's married with twins, and he happens to be 30 years old. I mean, just the perceptions of him are not true. I have never seen anything that would disqualify my belief that he is a potential world champion. As a matter of fact, I predict he fights for the belt in 2025. He's going to need 2 wins. They're going to have to be the right wins. But Michael Chandler, that's a big name to bring down if he does.
We were curious because, you know, there was some buzz that Topuria was going to be defending his belt here, and then he moves up, and now he's tweeting out that he's got some huge announcement, Chael. You got any scoop on that, or what Topuria's got up his sleeve?
We were just talking about that. Nobody knows. So just to lay this case out for you, he drops the 45-pound belt. He announces he's going up to 55. Now, generally, simultaneously, and I can think of 2 other examples in history where this has happened, simultaneously they will announce that he's fighting for the title the same day that he announces that he's dropping his belt. That's not what happened. So I can't really imagine Ilia Topuria moving up a weight class as an undefeated world champion, ranked number 2 pound for pound, and not getting a title shot. However, if he's going to get the shot, why wasn't it announced? And so I just think there is a chance that he's going to draw into Arman Sarukian or a Charles Oliveira. I think there's a chance that there will be one fight that he's got to stop off before he goes for Islam. And by the way, a poster for Ilia and Islam is going to do just fine, but it's not as big of a fight as those 2 think it is. A poster with Ilia and Islam after Ilia gets a win at the division, we're talking about a mega fight. We're talking about what could be the biggest fight of the year if that scenario played out.
There was news this week, Chael, about Dana White now getting into the boxing game. What do you think this means for him?
It's awesome. And you got to understand from a human standpoint, like, I was a little kid once, and I had a dream, and I tried to pursue it. So was Dana. Dana was a little boy one time, and he had a dream too, and it wasn't MMA, and it wasn't to be a CEO of a billion-dollar company. He wanted in the boxing business. That is what he has always wanted, and that, you know, it's a true passion and a true love, and I just share for you, like, on a human level. It's nice to see him. I mean, that guy works pretty damn hard. It's nice to see that the thing that he really wanted, he now has a chance to do. I think that's pretty cool. I think they're going to do great.
Chael, you don't think it's difficult to go into boxing? The way they structure and do things is a little bit different than MMA. And in fact, a lot of guys are kind of doing all these crazy boxing matches to get the big payday. How is he going to transition from MMA to boxing when the way they pay fighters is so different?
Yeah, I'm so curious. I'm so curious what that model's going to be. They've really never had a leader. They never had quite a leader in boxing. So to start with, no, the first day or the first week or the first couple of years, there's going to be some real struggle to find your guys who's loyal, who really wants to be world champion versus who wants to be rich and famous. And there's a fine line right there. But once you identify those guys, the community does kind of gravitate towards them. I'm also curious, is it going to change anything? For example, if he copies the UFC model, then that would mean on each boxing card, we're going to get 5 feature matches with a co-main event and a heavily promoted main event. That would be very different in boxing. And by the way, if he's going to do that, that's a lot of boxing to watch if all those are 12-round contests. So is he going to shorten it? Will the undercard be 5 rounds? Because boxing is actually very fun to watch. It's just the human body is not made to do it for 12 rounds. So guys go out there with this unspoken agreement, let's kill 5 rounds so that we can get through this, and then let's go like hell for the final and sort this out. I mean, you'll hear announcers in boxing covering it from the beginning of time. There's a feeling out process. No, there's not. You would never hear that at the amateurs. You would never hear that at the Olympic Games because it's a reasonable time period. 12 rounds is not reasonable for the human body. So I do think that there's some room to shorten it, to get 4 or 5 big matches on a card, to actually build the sport, build the storylines. I hope that's the direction they're going. I don't have any inside scoop on that. I mean, nothing has been said except for the rumor I'm starting right now that possibly they're going to manipulate the rules. But I hope they do give a good look at that. I mean, they used to do this for 15 rounds. Frankly, it was too much.
Ooh. Oh my goodness, I remember those days.
I don't just mean from a human standpoint. It wasn't fun to watch. Like, we got to get them in and get them out. Get the interview, get the story, get the trailer going, get them in and get them out. Like, that's a show. That's fun. And that's, I think, what he does better than anybody. And I really do hope he brings that to boxing. I hope he considers it.
Leroy, you might have been right. He's not the bad guy anymore. He's too good. He's too lovable now. He's no longer the big heel.
I just one of the things that I always wonder about, Chael, if you make it shorter, say for example, a guy like Floyd Mayweather, he spends the whole fight being a defensive fighter. If you make that fight shorter, does in effect he lose more fights because of the aggressiveness of the other fighter because the fight is shorter?
Sure. Or does he change his style? I mean, typically, we see this in MMA with some rule changes. We've seen this in the amateurs of boxing with some rule changes. The same guy wins. The same guy might change his style or change his training, but he can't. And I really believe Floyd could have really focused and condensed that. He actually proved that when he got a silver medal in the Olympic Games, that he only had, 3 rounds out there, but he found a way to beat those guys. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't as defensive. He was a little more aggressive. He understood it was a point system. He understood I need to touch you more than you touch me. I think that they can adapt. One thing that Jake Paul did, and people don't really give Jake credit, but one thing that he really did that was nice early in his career, he was doing 6-round fights. Like when he and Mike Tyson fought, that might have been 8 rounds, but you get my point. It was enough. We don't need them out there stumbling around for 12 and 15 rounds and things like this. We need less. We need more action in less time. That's my opinion. I don't know if I'm going to get my way, but I'm going to campaign for it, and I'm starting with you guys right now.
I love it. Chael, before we get you out of here, you think John Jones Aspinall actually happens?
Yep. And let me tell you something about that. Contrary to popular belief, John Jones has not turned that fight down. Contrary to what's being reported, he has never been offered it. He did his thing in the media. They did their thing in the media, but that phone call behind closed doors has never been placed. I believe the moment a date in a venue and a location and training camp can begin, I believe John Jones is going to be absolutely a green light. He is not ducking that fight as reported. That's a misunderstanding.
Chael Sonnen. Catch him this weekend on ESPN. He's the best. UFC 313, Pereira versus Ankalaev. Thanks for the time, Chael.
Thanks, Chael.
I've had it with you all. Goodbye.
He's leaving us like that. He's done. Yeah. All right. I guess that's how it's going to go. He just.
Hey.